Before I get started, I just want to tell you guys about my little self-published chapbook that I have with me tonight. LA Woman Lives in the Fast Lane. If you want one, I got it. I'll sign it for you. It's great. I love it. My mother fell out of a moving car onto her head when she was 5 years old. And her IQ is very low. It's 62. For perspective, Forrest Gump was about a 68. And my mother just didn't have the tools to be a good mother. She tried to spank me with a 2x4 when I was 2 years old for taking a crayon to the living room walls. She let my baby brother drink bleach, and she accidentally spilled boiling water on me. And when her and my dad got divorced, my 4'10" mother married a hulking 6'4" man named Melvin, who also wasn't very smart and who'd had a very sad life, and it had made him a very angry man. And he beat her a lot. And one day, my mother dropped my brother and I off, and she said, "I did the first 10 years, I'm done." And we never heard much more from her. Every once in a while we'd hear from her, but not much. And honestly, it was kind of a relief. Now, the absence of my mother has shaped every single thing about my life. But I've always known that someday I would get the call to help her, and that I would have to take care of her, and I dreaded that day. And I got calls. Sometimes I would get calls that he'd beaten her up again, or that he was in jail again. But last summer, I got the call, and I said, no more. I quit my freelance job. I booked a one-way ticket to Central Illinois. I kissed my newlywed husband goodbye, and I told him I didn't know when I was coming home. The state had put my mother in a very low-functioning group home because Melvin was in jail, and she could no longer take care of herself. Her head trauma and the years of him beating her in the head had given her dementia. This on top of her intellectual disability. I took custody of my mother, and with that, a huge task list. I had to move her out of her home of 32 years. I had to win a restraining order against Melvin, and I had to somehow, some way, find a place for her to live. I am not a particularly religious person, but I reached out to everyone I knew, Christian, Jews, atheists, Native Americans. I said, please pray for us, please pray for us. Sacrifice a goat if you have to. We need all the help we can get. Her hygiene has never been really great, okay? But her social workers told me that I was going to have to give her cues in the shower. And the first night, I just couldn't do it. And when I bent to give her a goodnight kiss, I was really confused as to why she smelled like poop after freshly coming out of the shower. And I was also terrified that Melvin would get bail and that he would come home in the middle of the night and he would kill us. And I didn't sleep much, but when I did, I slept with a screwdriver. And I know a screwdriver is a totally lame weapon, but I checked her kitchen. She didn't have any knives. All she had was a bunch of melted spatulas. In the morning, I would supervise my mother as she packed her lunch, and I would say to her in kind of a bitchy tone, "No, you can't have 3 strawberry yogurts and Cheetos for lunch." She'd get real mad and yell, "God damn it," a few times. She still smelled. And then I put her on her bus with other intellectually disabled people where they would go, and she would work at her job, which is a subsidized factory with Kraft, where they put together the end cap displays for Velveeta squeeze cheese. You ask my mom what she does for a living. She says, "I do cheese." And then I would go and I would talk to her army of social workers, and I took constant calls from the district attorney. And I spent hours in the horrendous lines with the Social Security office. It was really, really hard, and I was utterly alone. I did have one friend, John, from junior high, and John had grown up to be a pig semen farmer. And I was totally overstimulated from taking care of my mom, and I needed a mental break. So I asked John if I could go to his pig semen farm. So I'm standing there, I'm looking at the stud pigs, they got mud all over their balls. And for just a minute, I forgot about all the chaos going on in my life. And I said to John, so how do you extract the semen? And he said, stick out your finger. And I did, and he grabbed a hold of it. He grabbed as hard as he could, and he squeezed, and he would not let go. And then he started talking something about like the pressure of the pig's vagina, but I wasn't paying attention anymore because in that moment, everything had become really, really clear to me that my heart was being squeezed like the pig's penis, and I had a choice. I could either let it implode, or I could just finally let it go. So that's what I chose. And I picked up my mom from work, and I said, today's the day, Mom, we're moving. I had to stop sleeping with a screwdriver, and I had to get on with the business of me and my mom getting to know one another. And I burned the picture of the two of them over the mantle, and I packed her stuff in the car. And I saw that there was poop in her bed, and I left it there for Melvin as a present when he got out of jail. I put my mom in the car, and I cranked the radio, and John Cougar was on, and he was singing, "Life Goes On." And to my shock, my mom knew the words too, and for the first time ever, we were having fun. And I was getting her out of that situation. It was my dream. So if life is ever squeezing you like a pig's vagina, you just remember, you have the power.